the #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.
Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to episode 206 of Costa Rica Real Estate and Investments with me, your host, Richard Beckson. Today, we're going to be talking with Cynthia Deslauriers. I think I've pronounced that right, so apologies if I do not. She's a real estate advisor for Engels Volkers here in Guanacaste. She works all over the area, Flamingo, Tamarindo, Playa Grande. So she's been in Costa Rica for over 20 years. So I think anyone that's been here for that long, it's always worth talking to. I've worked for her before, and she's a pleasure to do business with. As you'll see on the podcast there, she's very humilde or humble, as we say here. Today, we're going to be talking with her about the MLS, buyer's agents, and also where she would be investing with a 5 or 10 year outlook here in Costa Rica. So it's going to be very interesting to talk to her. Remember, guys, if you're looking to do anything here in Costa Rica, all of our contact details are down in the description. You can also have a free 15-minute consultation with our team here on just investing here in Costa Rica, just to make sure you're making the right moves in the right location. I know quite a few of you have questions, so please don't be afraid. There's no obligation. Just chat with the team, use their knowledge and energy. We're a sucker for helping people, as I always say. So anything you need, just let us know. Or you can email us info@investingcostarrica.com. That's info@investingcostarrica.com. But let's get straight into the podcast. Good afternoon, Cynthia. How are you doing?
I'm very well. How about you?
Very, very good. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
No, not at all, not at all. Well, let's jump straight into it, as I know the listeners here are very eager to hear from you. I mean, markets in the US have had I would say, a somewhat good start to 2024, even though we're halfway through it now. I think real estate worldwide is definitely slowing down. I think we can see that, especially in some sectors. But I mean, what are you seeing happening here in Costa Rica?
Well, I don't think we follow the trend. I think we're in a special spot in the universe, honestly. I think it's just the beginning here. And what we've seen is just an expansion of the market. And everybody wants to live in Costa Rica. And the investments these last few years have been incredible. I don't know if you've heard this expression, but it's the playground of the billionaires. It's it's such a paradise that I think we're always going to get a strong market.
Yeah, I've been hearing that, I would definitely agree on the billionaires side, but I'm going to say that stuff that, that's in I wouldn't say lower end, but in the mid market is sticking around a little bit more. Stuff around that 750 to 1.5 million is definitely sitting on the market a little bit longer than it was prior.
Yes, because there's a lot. During COVID, everybody that bought a property and built a house to sell it at 1.2 million. It seemed like it was like the trend. 2022, let's build a house and sell it for $1.2 million.
Yeah.
You agree, huh?
Yeah. No, I mean, that seemed to have been the magic number. I mean, we took a listing offline that I developed with a client of mine as a partnership. We took it offline in the end. I mean, we had tons of excitement and offers about it because it was very close to the ocean. But in the end, he decided he wanted to keep it, so he bought me out. So I can't complain. But,
good.
The magic number was 1.25 million. So
yeah. There's definitely the market is saturated, and now I'm working with all kinds of different developers, and we're gonna bring down the price point because most people want I think the market for me right now is it would be ideal under 700, really high return on investment because the occupancy rates and the nightly rates are so high that at 700,000, your profit is very high. And then, or else you have the ultra rich that it's return on enjoyment.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. They don't care about the revenue. But those two are the markets that we have to work on right now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we chatted with Dawn Lane in the previous episode about the MLS. I mean, what are your thoughts on this MLS?
Well, I'm super excited about it. Honestly, what a tool, thank God for technology. I mean, in Canada and the United States, we take a system like that for granted. But I can tell you it's a lot of work without addresses or a multi-listing service. It's quite a challenge. It's given me a lot of work these last few years to just figure it all out. And then also for history, I mean, I love that there's going to be history.
Yep.
that we can know, like right now, we can know how many homes sold this last few months. You know, all this data was not available to us, and it was all a guessing game. And so I'm glad to be a little bit out of the guessing game for sure.
I agree. I agree. I mean, what do you think the challenges that it will face in Costa Rica?
Oh, the MLS? Well, we're all a bunch of rebels around here, so it's compliance takes a bit more time, but that's the beauty of it, right? Everything balances out. So it's like there's these, you know, we're all these great personalities, we're all entrepreneurs, but it's hard to get us to fit in a box. But
Yep.
once everybody understands that the box is a good box, I think everybody's going to jump in. And I think that's what's happening now. More and more agencies are on it. And then if you want to get listings, it's going to have to be obligatory. Like if I was listing my house and my agent wasn't on MLS, I don't think I'd be very satisfied with that.
Yeah. I mean, and that gets to a question in a minute. I mean, we'll talk, you know, buyer's agents, but I suppose seller's agents. I mean, one of the questions would be to a seller agent, if there was, you know, are you part of an MLS in Costa Rica?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't hear often the word buyer's agents in Costa Rica. You just don't hear that word as much. You hear seller's agents a lot. Why don't you hear that, Cynthia, in your opinion?
Well, I call myself a relocation friend.
Okay.
Actually, I'm disguised as a buyer's agent, but really the people that are investing in Costa Rica are taking a leap. They need this hug. They need me to explain so many things. We have such a particular job. I have a bond with all my clients in the end. Where do I buy a car? What about my dentist, my doctor? Like, we're just here to give one big hug and find the property of someone's dreams. But I think it's another level in Costa Rica. You need a buyer's agent. Like, I can't understand somebody that wouldn't, you know, I would trust one person, because you'll need that person not only during the transaction, but afterwards. Where do I pay my water bill? Where, like, all these things, you know, integration is very important. And your agent, usually it's part of our workload, is like, and it's a pleasure to help people move to Costa Rica.
In a market that's so unregulated in Costa Rica, which is real estate, you said put your trust in one person. I mean, how do you make sure that that one person has your interests, you know, and their clients' interests? Is because a lot of brokerages don't get along in this country. So, like, how do you make sure that they are serving the buyer and not other interests, if that makes sense?
I know. And I think that's any salesperson, right? I think you've got to go with your gut feeling a little bit. I would interview a few people. I would also communicate with them before making a final decision. You can feel like, let's say I ask for a few listings. If the person is only sending me their own listings, well,
Yep.
But yeah, create already a sense of trust. And once I choose that agent, I would tell them, hey, you're my preferred agent. I'm going to buy from you. And then the agent is going to become like your tool, your number one tool to invest or move to Costa Rica.
I mean, what makes a good buyer's agent? I mean, what questions would you be asking? I mean, you said interview some people there. I mean, what would be some of the questions you'd be asking them?
Do you work with all agencies is a good one.
Yeah,
for sure. Being part of the MLS, you know, it's a good question. I think there's a lot of it in trust, and if there's a possibility to do an interviewing process face-to-face, even better. Doing virtual conferences, seeing if the agent also has contacts, or which lawyer's firm are you working with, just asking the right questions and seeing the response, and see if there's something like a confidence that's built through these conversations.
What would be the warning signs for you? I mean, if someone's interviewing a buyer's agent, I mean, what would be something that you'd be like, look, but I mean, you mentioned one there, which is just sending their own listings. You know, I mean, it's because then you're not a buyer's agent. I mean, you're literally you're a seller's, you know, agent that's just, you know, trying to be a buyer's agent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I'm an empath, so I don't understand people that work like that because like my whole goal is to make my client happy. That's my first on the list. And honestly, usually I think it transpires in the conversations and people can feel that,
Yeah.
there's a care, the questions that I ask, like, what are your hobbies? What do you want? Like, and then I never let some people just go online and they look at listings and they fall in love with the house, but I'm like, is this really for you? Like, really going deeper into their selections and just giving the care necessary. But one thing, I know that some agents like call me, I'll tell you who not to work with.
Yeah.
Because some agents don't give
No.
it's amazing, or they don't want to work, or they have a second job, or they're just not passionate about the work, or they haven't lived here long enough to really understand what's going on. Like I've been here 20 years. I know everybody like
Yeah.
well, I understand who's developing. I understand like the roots, everything, like I understand the whole machine, and not to brag, but I think it makes a big difference.
Hey, I've been here for 20 years as well, so I completely agree. I mean, there's a lot of people because, again, it's not a regulated industry that just turn up and put their flag in the ground. And look, people have to start somewhere,
Yeah.
but I think it's like there's just so much to learn. I mean, and
So
Costa Rica is a huge country. Every province is different, every canton is different, pricing is different in all very different areas. So, yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you.
yeah, especially with the whole guessing game, like if you don't have data, you better have memory because it's all in here,
Yeah.
and then the contacts that I have, I can call all the major brokers around, we're all friends here. Actually, I'm friends with every broker in the region, and I think that's a very important tool that I have.
Yeah. I think I would use the word, as they say in Spanish, humilde. I think you're very humble, Cynthia.
Oh, thank
You're very welcome.
you.
What are the areas of Costa Rica that you think, I mean, people listening always love to know of kind of like you're out there every single day. I mean, what do you think are the areas of Costa Rica that are going to see the most growth over the next 5 years, just 5-year window?
Well, everybody's got their own opinion, right? Because we don't have magic balls. But for me, like Tamarindo is just beginning. Like we're getting a Starbucks. We're getting infrastructure. So from the center of Tamarindo, which is not far from the airport, which is very important. So I work in the luxury market. So people that I work with often are over 45, okay? And they need a hospital. They need activities, they need really good supplies, good grocery stores. So, in the next 5 years, chances are this is happening around Tamarindo or a bit more north. But yeah, so I think Tamarindo's overflowing, especially south. I love Avellanas. The beach is the most exceptional light. And now it's getting to be like so many good restaurants around there. There's something magical happening 20 minutes south of Tamarindo. And then my favorite is Playa Negra. So I think if I had 5-year plan, anything near the water south of Tamarindo would be really good.
And you have any listings that excite you in those areas?
Yes. There's one amazing one I'm listing this week.
Yeah.
I want to buy it, so I don't know if I want to share it.
Oh, come on, Cynthia. You can't say that and then not tell us here on the podcast. By the time the podcast comes out, it should be up on your website.
No, really, like in Playa Negra, okay, imagine Tamarindo 20 years ago. I have center Playa Negra, 7,000 square meters. Okay, so that for the Americans, it's like 70,000 square feet, okay? It's got this cute house on it, and it's got the most beautiful, majestic huge mango trees and huge Guanacaste trees. And it's in the center of town of Playa Negra, which in 5 years, I think will be the hot spot. You've got all the Michelin chefs that work there. You've got the best restaurant, super good vibe, it's still 100% pura vida there, which I love. It's a bit like, it's very free spirit still.
Well, I mean, Avellanas and Negra keep coming up on our radar here kind of constantly here on the podcast. So, I mean, there are some new developments coming in. I just had a client that was like, I wish I'd have bought in Langosta 20 years ago. So now I'm buying in Avellanas,
Exactly. He's right. I think so. But Avellanos is not the price of Langosta 20 years ago. Unfortunately, it's already quite hyped up. But yeah, anything that going south from Avellanos is gonna go up in value quite a bit. I can't imagine that it wouldn't, because you've got not only Avellanos, you've got Lagartillo, you've got Playa Negra, Playa Blanca, Playa Cañones. All those are pure treasures, and they're all within like 15 minutes. So yeah, just for the beaches, the surf. So you've got surfing beaches and you've got relaxing beaches, you've got black, you've got white beaches, you know, all different like landscapes. It's just beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's your 5-year, you know, game. I mean, what about 10 years, which is a little further out? Where would you be making the punt on 10 years?
That's even a bigger question, but I would go a bit more. I would go all the way to Marbella.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. And maybe, you know, Coco right now is not totally what I like. It's a bit less hip. There's no surfing, but the infrastructure and everything is coming. The money's coming up north, Hermosa up north, near Papagayo. The prices are low still now.
Yep.
It's just that you can't get yourself a good espresso really over there. Like the restaurants and all that is not, but eventually in 10 years, Hermosa, Playa Panama, all this where the Waldorf Astoria, the land is like at $30 a meter there. So
Wow.
there's good opportunities.
Definitely.
But for now, I wouldn't live there. Like I couldn't imagine living there. It's too boring.
Yeah.
But yeah, the possibility of if you've got developers that want to buy big parcels and eventually segregate them and sell them in lots, like on a 5-10 year, I think Hermosa is going to be Playa Panama, Hermosa, Coco is going to be really good for that.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's some good developments up there. I mean, you know, Hermosa's lacking some water up there in the mountains where, you know, but yeah, it's, I agree. Like it's 20-25 minutes from the airport. So it's, you know, it's just very interesting.
Yeah. And I know, honestly, don't tell anyone, but I know of very big developments that are going over there that are going to bring a lot of value to that area. Yeah.
Well, you realize this, Cynthia, gets recorded and put out anyway. So I think everyone's. Okay, my last question for you is, I think I've kept you long enough. If you inherited $500,000 and had to invest it into a business or real estate in Costa Rica, what would you invest it in and why, Cynthia?
That's a hard question. I would buy, honestly, like in anywhere in the world, I think this rule applies. Anything with ocean view or close to the water in a market that's coming up. So like the property I'm telling you about, walking distance to the beach and in the center of town for less than 500. For me, that's very exciting. It's going to be worth for sure $1 million plus, you know, just in a few years. I would just hold that land for a few years. Yeah.
Well, good for you. Good answer. Well, Cynthia, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the podcast. I will put all of your contact details down in the description, but thanks very much for taking the time to chat with us.
Very awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Pura vida, everyone.
Bye. Guys, very interesting podcast there with Cynthia. You know, we kind of went down the MLS rabbit hole just a little bit because, again, on the previous episode we did with Dawn. And I think it's just, you know, the industry is changing here slowly, as most things do. You know, things here always take, you know, 2, 3, 4 times longer than they do in most of the world. But it's going to be nice, you know, to get that data and have access to it. You know, and I think it's just, you know, the tide rises, all boats rise, as I say. So I think with that data, it's really going to help everyone. You know, someone was asking for comps the other day, you know, because we're here and we kind of know it, we're able to get that, but it's very difficult for anyone that's not in the industry here to get that information. And then also just talking about buyer's agents as well. You know, it's not a thing that you regularly hear in Costa Rica, but I think it's important to have a buyer's agent, guys. You know, rather than just jumping from one to the other, and you know, just make sure that you're making the right decision for you with a buyer's agent, make sure that interests are aligned. And I think it was great that what she said there, that like when you ask for listings, if it's just, you know, if it's a Coldwell Banker, say, or Remax, or, you know, Blue Water Properties, whoever you're working with in Costa Rica, it could be anyone, you know, that they're not just sending you their own stuff, but also sending you other stuff from other agents as well, because then you know that they're looking out for your interests here, because it's a very unregulated market here. But again, you'll figure out who the good guys are pretty quickly. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the podcast, guys. If you do, please give us a review, give us a thumbs up, 5 stars. Pass the pod as well to anyone that you think that might be interesting too. It's been great actually to be like, hey, so and so referred me the podcast to me. I listened to it. It was great. It was a huge amount of information and knowledge. And thanks very much, Richard, for doing that. But I love doing it, guys. We'll continue to do these. I hope you're enjoying them. But until the next podcast, we'll catch you later. Bye.
The #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.